Hello, welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Bob Scarborough.
And we are the FAIRtax guys. And we have got to get we have got to get right on down to business today. You know how those radio stations
stuff.
Yeah, you know how those radio stations are. They got some pretty inflexible time slots that things have to fit into. We've got a lot of video to bring you today relative to a new FAIRtax campaign pledge signer.
Yes, Jonathan Mitchell from Splendora, Texas. It's Northeast Houston, District 8. He's a pipeliner. And the interesting thing is he just decided, hey, it's time for me to do something. Got tired of looking at all that was going on and said, I'm running. I'm going to run. I'm throwing my hat in the ring. So we have a great interview with him in today's program, Bob.
Excellent. And a shout out again to John Gaber. This is the fellow out there that wrote the book, The Rich Don't Pay Taxes, or Do They? And he has made it a personal quest of his to get as many candidates in this District 8 race in Texas as possible on the FAIRtax, because that's the seat that Kevin Brady's retiring from. That's a rather large field seeking to replace him. And John's going to try to get as many FAIRtax people in that race as possible. So whoever wins, the FAIRtax still comes out on top.
Absolutely. Oh, I enjoyed talking with him, and like I said, he's a hustler out there. I mean, he works hard and has a job that is in the gas and oil business. He's a pipeliner, as they call it. He works a lot of hours and stays busy. But he's also running for the House of Representatives there in District 8.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and roll it here.
Hello, I'm John Gaber, author of The Rich Don't Pay Tax, or Do They? And I'm sitting here today with a candidate for Congress for the Texas Congressional District 8. That's Congressman Brady's district. Congressman Kevin Brady has announced that he is retiring. So we have a big field, and today I'm sitting here with Jonathan Mitchell, who's running for that office. Jonathan, say hello.
Hello.
Jonathan and I have been talking for some time about the FAIRtax, and I'd like to give him a chance to say why he's running, and then a little bit we'll ask about the FAIRtax. But right now, just why are you running, Jonathan?
I'm running to restore the values of America and make sure that we still have our Constitution of the United States and that our liberties are not being violated like they are as of right now. I want to protect our liberties and restore every bit of that has been stolen from us.
Okay, and you're a working man here. I notice you're wearing your pipeline T-shirt there.
Yes,
So Jonathan isn't dressed in a suit today because he is a working man. Jonathan, tell us briefly some of the things you like about the FAIRtax and why you're signing on to it.
So for the FAIRtax, what I love about it is that it's going to abolish the IRS. That, first and foremost, that's what I'm about. That's what my campaign's about, is abolishing these government organizations, and IRS is in that list. It's on the top of the list. So with that being said, not only is it going to abolish that, it will also allow you to have the government out of your pockets, and the government's not going to be able to come after you. There'll be the state agencies, and they'll be going after the businesses in the state alone, not after the individual taxpayers. So for that, I am highly supportive of that. I don't want the government to invade on our privacy anymore, especially with the Patriot Act. They're already invaded it and going after violating our Fourth Amendment right. And for that, the FAIRtax is going to help out with that. It's going to eliminate people from not paying taxes. It's going to help out with everyone's going to pay their fair share. It's not just individuals getting away with not paying and cutting the system.
Well, that's good. I think a lot of people who are in support of the FAIRtax feel basically the same way. What is your favorite thing about the FAIRtax? What feature do you think is the best?
The best feature is going to be eliminating the IRS and the $13.6 billion budget that they have that just got raised to for next year. That's the number one feature I like.
Yeah, okay. Well, I appreciate the fact that you are really on board with it. Too many people, try to come out and say, oh, yeah, I'll support this or I'll support that, but very few people will actually sign on to something like that. And I want to tell people that are watching this that you didn't just say, oh yeah, I'll do this, that we had extensive conversations about it and that you really are a supporter.
Yes, sir.
So with that, I would like to have you go ahead and sign it here. Let me get the camera turned down here. There we go. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Jonathan, it's been really nice getting to know you. And I'm glad that if you are elected, that you will be one of the people to help us get rid of the IRS.
Yes, sir. 100%.
So anyway, with that, I'll turn it back over to the people with the FAIRtax guys who are going to be broadcasting this. Y'all take care.
All right, have a good one.
We're happy to have with us on this episode of FAIRtax Power Radio, Jonathan Mitchell. He's running for U.S. Congress down in Texas 08, District 8. Welcome, Jonathan. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, sir?
We're doing great, and we appreciate you coming on with us. I love your website because it has the Internal Revenue Service logo and a big red X through it, because that's one of the things that the FAIRtax does is it gets rid of the Internal Revenue Service. Down there in Texas, you told me where you lived, a place called Splendora, and
yes,
a little town close to a big city, which where a lot of people live in little towns close to big cities. Tell me a little bit about Splendora and how you got started in the business that you're in, and then we'll start talking about your office, your running for office, and how you came about that idea.
All righty. Yes, sir. So Splendora is right outside Houston, Northeast Houston. And a very small town. I graduated with less than 200 people in my class. And we're predominantly just a working class community. Matter of fact, District 8 is a predominantly working class district here in Texas. It's a very close, when I say close as in town wise, when I was growing up, my parents, it doesn't matter where they went, they knew someone else, and the kids always knew who my parents was. And if I couldn't get away with nothing. So anything that I did, my parents knew everything. They would come right back home. Like, well, what'd you do last night? Like, well, can't hide it. So,
oh my goodness, that is so funny because it's so true in small towns, and a lot of America is that. It's small working class towns, folks like yourself. Putting in their name for public office is a big step. What made you decide to get involved with running for U.S. Congress down there in District 8, Texas?
Well, what happened with me was I'm in the oil and gas industry. I'm a pipeliner, and a lot of stuff that happened with COVID of last year, it followed, and a lot of projects were starting to shut down because of it. And then so that was one of the stepping stones for me. And the other stepping stones came right at the election, whenever the integrity laws, everything just kind of went out the window with the election, how that all went. And then like I said, the following of that, it was just a domino effect. And after Biden got in office, I had enough. I said, someone needs to run. I think I'm going to run. At least a working class guy needs to run. I'm tired of these career politicians. They get in office and everything goes out the window for them. I thought for one candidate, Dan Crenshaw, I thought he was going to be great. He flopped on us, and I just kept seeing that, and I just, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and run, throw my name in the hat, and I think I can do something good for this community and this district. So
it's going to be in the primaries. How many people are running in that primary down there in Texas?
Right now, there is 16 of us, 14 Republicans and 2 Democrats. But we are we are the reddest district here in Texas. So that's going to be very tough for the Democrats, but at the same time, it's going to be very tough for the rest of the Republicans running, since there's such a large number of us in this pool.
There's a page on your website that deals with issues, and one of your issues is dealing with taxes. The thing that I liked about what I saw on there was lower taxes. That's one of your pieces, platform, I guess. Yeah, first thing out of the box, put the IRS out of business and put the FAIRtax in place. And then you describe a little bit about what the FAIRtax is. So you've signed the pledge.
Yes,
John
sir.
Gaver got in touch with you and had you sign the FAIRtax Pledge, which we appreciate. It's something that actually helps solidify the understanding, I think, within the candidates that are available that are giving their names for public office. It helps solidify their understanding of what the FAIRtax is. And at the same time, it makes a statement out into the public that this is something that you're going to be fighting for. When you're out on the campaign trail and you're talking to folks that you may represent from District 8, what is the reaction when they see your website or look at a flyer and they say, well, how are you going to get rid of the Internal Revenue Service? And what is this FAIRtax thing? Do you get that kind of reaction? And what do you say to them?
Yes, sir, I do. Matter of fact, I was in Polk County this last weekend, and with the redistricting that just happened, they're a new county for us. So I went ahead and went out there, and it's also a friend's birthday. So I was visiting him while I'm there. I try to be proactive and try to meet other people while I'm there. And that's one thing that came up is how you going to get rid of the IRS? Because I'm for that. I want to abolish the IRS, and because I am for small government. And I explained the FAIRtax, and they've heard a little bit about it. However, they're not very familiar on how it would work. So whenever I explained it to them, they said, man, that sounds phenomenal. That actually sounds really good. Because it doesn't just take care of abolish the IRS. It helps out with immigration. It helps out with, actual taxes that will be getting paid instead of what we have set up right now. And when they hear it, they're like, wow, that actually sounds like a great plan. Why don't more candidates or other members of the House represent it? And I said they do. Then they get in, and then they get bought out by the party, and it just is a long trail of how they back out. I said I'm not for that.
A lot of people have discussions about term limits. And that's something else that's important too. The thing about the Internal Revenue Service is that it's kind of codified in our Constitution in one of the amendments, number 16. 16th Amendment says, it sort of put the Internal Revenue Service Treasury the ability to tax income, and then then the Internal Revenue Service became the way to manage all of that collection. So with the FAIRtax, we simply move the process of taxation to a different level, a level that puts us, we the people, in control. And this is something that's important. And as people dig into what the FAIRtax can do, and realize that we're not really talking about changing the amount of money that the federal government gets. We're only talking about how to change the method of which they get the money, which changes the method by which lobbyists can gain access to politicians by the manipulation of the tax code for special interests. And I think that's the biggest thing. And you think about the term limits and things like that. We have the power of term limits with it at the ballot box, but it's so difficult because it costs so much to run anymore. And I'm sure you're hearing or finding that out yourself and just raising money to run for the primary out there.
Yes, sir. It's extremely tough. I've been running my campaign a little bit different than most out here, and that's made it even more difficult for me because I don't do a whole lot of donations. I try to fund it all myself, which is extremely tough. But I am finding that out though, is how much it costs to run and actually getting your ads out there, getting to be able to travel to the right places and meeting everyone. It adds up. I actually was adding up the other day of how much I've spent so far, and I'm like, wow, this is going to add up pretty quick. So
you understand in a very real way the cost of running a campaign, even at the primary level, for national office, for U.S. Congress, and in Texas, where you live, with not necessarily rural, but like you said earlier, everybody knows everybody, and that's a good thing too. It helps, I'm sure, that you have a familiar face in the areas that you're traveling.
Yes, sir, it does. I've actually went out with some other friends They invited me out for an evening, and I've had people come up, talk to me just because they knew somebody of somebody, and they just came up, talked to me, wanted to know my views, and want to know how I plan on executing these plans and getting them out there, and making sure that everything goes as planned. So that is pretty nice.
With the FAIRtax, it's going to take a Herculean effort to turn the ship, so to speak, that's already in the water heading in a particular direction. Have you talked to other candidates who are not necessarily in your district, or to other candidates who are in Texas, for that matter, or across the country through social media? Have you made contact with any of those who have professed a liking to the FAIRtax? And have you begun talking about how, if you get elected, the group would go in and sort of move the discussion, the debate in Congress towards a tax on consumption through the FAIRtax?
I've had a little. I'm not going to sit here and say I've reached out to a lot, but I have talked to a few, and one's actually in my district. He's running, however, with the new district lines, we're not sure if he's going to back out and go to another district or not. But I have talked to him about it just briefly, and we're on the understanding it's such a big hurdle to get there. However, I think if we can get more candidates and more people online on it that's already in office, which is going to be very, very tough. But there's a few candidates that I want to reach out to and talk to about, and actual other members of the House that I want to talk to about as well, trying to get them on the same plan. But doing that, trying to get a hold of their committee has been kind of difficult. I've been realizing, even to the other candidates that I've reached out to, I've left messages. It's hard to get a hold of them. I understand why, because we're all so busy. Me with working and then running after work. These guys, they're men and women that they're actually running constantly, so it is very tough trying to get a hold of them.
And I understand that too. The great thing about youth is the energy and the new ideas. I feel I'm excited to be able to talk to you today about the FAIRtax, with the understanding that it is it's a monumental hurdle to get over, the resistance. And it's not so much a resistance as it is the inertia that is moving in the direction that it has, since 100 and however many years it's been, since the 16th Amendment was put into place and the income tax was created. I believe it was 1913. We have all lived without knowing about no income tax. There's not too many people left living that can say, I remember a time when there was no income tax. So yes, we're thinking, okay, well, this is sort of the way it's going to be. And we just write we don't look at our stub at the end of the week and say, okay, well, I guess, it looks like $97 went out there. And, the payroll tax is the tax that really wallops people at all income levels, but especially at the lower income level. And it makes it difficult. Have you talked to anybody in your district that talks about their paycheck and the fact that they make a certain amount of money on the top, but then they get down to the bottom, and what are all these taxes being taken out for, and where does it go? Do you have a conversation with people about that?
I do, in a different manner, as in they are extremely upset that they get taxed heavily whenever they get overtime. They do not like that. And I say, I don't agree with that either. I'm not for that. They want to know about that. They're mad about the spending that we have, and then how much that's going to cost in taxes on the back end whenever they start taxing us for everything. What happened with Afghanistan and the billions of dollars, the $86 billion of equipment we gave to them, they said, that's our tax dollars. They tax me, to do all this, and then they just give it away. So that's where a lot of people in my district's frustration is where the money's going to and how much they're actually taking out. And it's sometimes better for them not to work overtime.
Interesting. That's an interesting thought. I hadn't thought about the overtime, the difference between overtime and 40 hours, but it does present a challenge for people who are working, and they get hit at a time where they're working a little bit more than they normally would for a little bit extra money, time and a half. And
Yes, sir.
The benefit to the FAIRtax, and I'm preaching to the choir now, I know, because you understand it. All of those federal taxes wash away. The income tax, the Social Security, the tax on savings, tax on Medicare, everything on that paycheck from the federal government side, when it's a federal withholding, is gone. And so quite simply, you get a big benefit right off the bat.
Yes, sir.
When you tell people that, and maybe it's the first time they've heard about the FAIRtax or how you're going to lower taxes, maybe they say, well, how are you going to lower taxes? I can hear them. How are you going to lower taxes, Jonathan? And you tell them about the FAIRtax. And they say, and you say, well, it's this. And when you tell them that they are going to be able to keep their entire paycheck free from federal withholding, what do they say?
They're kind of stumped, to be honest. Their heads wrapping around it. It's almost like it's a fairy tale to them. But when I dive into it and explain it, it kind of brings them right back to reality. Like, whoa, this can actually happen. This is that kind of money can go to a lot of things, feeding my family, putting food on our table, gas into our trucks to go back and forth and work. Because the first thing that they always come back with is, well, how about we just do a flat tax? That's number one I always get. I said, I used to be for that. I said, however, let me explain what this does right here. This will eliminate all of that. You won't have no flat tax. You won't have none of that. Your money's going to be your money, and then what we spend at the grocery store, you're going to get a rebate back every month. You're going to get a rebate back. You don't have to wait till the end of the year. I'm like, well, you owe more money. That's eliminated.
Yeah, the government gets your withholding money interest free to do whatever they want to with it. And I'm thinking there's probably a bucket up there with money going in and out so fast you don't know whether the same amount is coming out that's going in, et cetera, or vice versa. And I'm excited to hear that when you talk to folks, that they're kind of nailing down and really thinking about this, and congratulations to you for making the effort to kind of educate them. And it's a big process right now to get people to think not flat tax, FAIRtax. FAIRtax is a tax on consumption. Flat tax is still an income tax, still has the Internal Revenue Service around. Mm-hmm. And we get to make the decisions about how much we're going to pay in taxes based on what we spend. And that gives us an opportunity to save, which is a foreign concept to some people who are living so close to the edge. And I applaud you for first of all, for running for office. It's a big decision, a big commitment. And second of all, for including FAIRtax in your plan and letting people know about it. And we just have to keep hammering it home. We just have to keep letting people know this is the way it can be. And like we always like to say, once you understand it, you'll demand it.
Yes, sir.
And the more candidates that we can find out there, like yourself, who've signed the FAIRtax Pledge, and then you going out and saying, hey, look, this is the best thing that we have going in terms of wresting control away from Washington in a big way. In a very big way. And I think that, it just takes each one of us, the folks that volunteer for the FAIRtax. When you have people out there that seem like they're interested, please direct them to the website, because we could use more volunteers all over the country in helping get the word out, just like you and I are talking tonight.
Yes, sir. I know one thing that I get asked is on the budget. And this is where another place where the FAIRtax comes in too, on the budget. They asked me, well, how do you plan on cutting the budget? I said, well, when we implement the FAIRtax plan, we get that set in place, we'll abolish the IRS. The IRS budget was just raised to $13.61 billion for next year. I said, that's $13.6 billion right off the budget, right off the top.
That's I hadn't even thought about that, but you're absolutely right. And it's not going to take near as many people. And it certainly isn't going to be anybody from the Internal Revenue Service. It's going to be over at Social Security. They're going to be dealing with 50 states and Puerto Rico, et cetera.
Yes, sir.
They're going to be dealing with the states one by one. So it's not going to take tens of thousands of people chasing down each one of the taxpayers. It's really going to be exciting. And I don't want to cut our conversation short because I think we could probably talk FAIRtax and
Yes, sir.
Texas all night long.
You can. Yes, sir.
You're a hard worker. We appreciate you. Good luck in your campaign. We wanted to educate people about you, Jonathan Mitchell, and we wanted to let people know exactly what you stand for there in District 8. And best of everything to you. And thank you for having signed the FAIRtax Pledge. Thank you for signing that. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir. No, I greatly appreciate y'all reaching out to me.
Yes, sir. Have a great night.
Yes, sir. You too.
Oh, okay. That was a good job, Bob. You did real well interviewing that guy. And again, it just struck me how young that guy is. You know, he's I don't know who's younger, him or Alex Stovall, but it's good to see some young folks interested in the political process.
And you know, when they say yes, sir, to you or Mr. Scarborough,
I
know that they're young.
I kept noticing that. He was
brought up well.
He was brought up well. All called you yes, sir, and no, sir. But again, thanks to John Gaver for arranging that. And it urge as many people as can to get their local candidates on the FAIRtax Pledge, even this early in the election cycle. You go to fairtax.org under the Get Involved tab. There's a FAIRtax Candidate Pledge page. You can see who signed up there, download a PDF of the pledge, take it to your candidate, get either still photos or video or both, send it to us at the FAIRtaxGuys@gmail.com, and hopefully we'll have an interview with your candidate before too much longer. That's a mouthful.
And you said that without taking a breath. He must be on oxygen somewhere, and we don't know about it.
Can be. Okay.
We want to remind everybody about the FAIRtax Marketplace, FAIRtaxMarketplace.com. It's just a super place that's building every day. And it's your own economy. And I love it. And one of the interviews that we're going to do here in the next week involves a young man who is running up in Michigan in the Detroit area. And he's setting up a shop on the FAIRtax Marketplace. Everybody needs to be involved. Do you have something to offer? Well,
I was going to say, that's excellent. FAIRtaxMarketplace.com. And of course, if you'd like to sell something there, there's a become a vendor link there. And I say you'll be speaking with this guy. This will be your second FAIRtax Candidate Pledge interview coming up in a couple of weeks on FAIRtax Power Radio. And with that, that's just about all the time we've got for this edition of FAIRtax Power Radio. Those videos took a long time. Okay, well, we are the FAIRtax Guys. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Bob Scarborough.
Again, reminding you that the FAIRtax is the only truly fair tax. And once you understand it,
you'll demand it.
So what do you need from me to get these taxes collected?
Glad you asked, because there is a fair amount of information you need to be aware of.
That's your tax plan?
Oh, no, this is just the revisions for this year's tax plan. What I need from you is you need to keep track of all of your income, as well as any taxes that you've already paid, and also any gifts that you received or gifts you've given to churches or charities or individuals throughout the entire year. Do you do any side jobs?
Every now and again.
Great, because there's some more information about that right here. Everything you need to know right here. So just simply compile that, send it in to us. Be careful, make sure there's no mistakes. If we do find mistakes, or maybe we can fine you or, throw you in jail. So you might want to be aware of that.
And what do you need from me?
As an individual, nothing. As a business owner, or if you're doing side jobs, yes, you would have to collect taxes on that, but, well, it's all right here.
Can I get a